Good morning. Could I have your attention, please? Good morning. On behalf of the Hall of Fame Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome all of you here to the 34th annual ceremony for induction into the Hall of Fame. I'm Bob Hirsch, Chair Emeritus of the Hall of Fame Board. I'm delighted that you could join us today to pay homage to two of our state's greatest public servants. This is a wonderful day for South Carolina. We are pleased to have with us the junior ROTC cadets from Horry County Schools to present the colors. Reverend Bobby Wilkes, pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Myrtle Beach, will give our invocation. Our national anthem will be performed by the Coastal Carolina University's Symphonic Band under the direction of Dr. James L. Tully, Director of Bands, featuring the university's concert choir under the direction of Francis T. Sinclair, Director of Choral Activities. Please rise.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you have given us this good land as our heritage. Make us always to remember your generosity, enable us to see your glory throughout the land and world. On this day, we come before you with grateful hearts, acknowledging our gratitude to two men, William Henry Drayton and Ernest Frederick Hollings, upon whom fell the mantle of great responsibility and leadership. We thank you for the special gifts you gave to them that enable them to serve our state, our nation, and our world with intelligence, imagination, compassion, and excellence. We thank you for the vision you gave them of a just and a humane society, a society that values the rights of all, and where opportunity enables people to live with hope and dignity. We thank you, O God, for the vision you gave them, for that stirring in their souls, that convinced them that our best days are not behind us, but before us. We thank you for their high resolve to stand up for the righteous causes of justice and truth as public servants in this land that we love. We thank you, O God, that you enable Senator Hollings and the Honorable Mr. Drayton to understand your truth as revealed by the voice of one who sang with so much soul. There ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep us from getting where we ought to be as a state and as a nation. Grant, O God, that this day set aside to honor these two outstanding men who serve with honor will motivate other men and women to serve, to walk as they walked, to rise above the currents of politics, that the common good of our nation and its people and the world will be advanced, and that justice and peace and compassion will continue to have strong voices in high places. Amen.
Be seated. Here now with a few words of welcome is the Honorable Alan Clemens, representative of District 107 and chairman of the Horry County delegation.
It's my honor to be with you here today to welcome you to this august occasion. I would first of all like to take a point of personal privilege to recognize that those that we're honoring here today, Senator Hollings and William Henry Drayton, served in that same body that I had the honor to serve. They served in the General Assembly. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity to be a part of this program today, to recognize them and their selfless service to this state and this nation. And I'd like to also welcome Senator Elliott here with us today. Senator Elliott serves with us in the General Assembly. We have many dignitaries here today. I will forego welcoming each of you by name, but we certainly are grateful to have you here with us. We are honored to have with us today Senator Ernest Frederick Hollings and his dear family, as well as the family of William Henry Drayton. It's an honor to be here with this august crowd today. I see many youth in the crowd. We'd like to welcome all of you here, and we'd like to challenge you throughout this occasion today to reflect upon the service of William Henry Drayton and Senator Hollings, because they have truly given their political lives and have put everything that they are into serving the great state of South Carolina and serving the United States of America. And they are being honored today to be candles to light the way for us all, to be better citizens, to be better patriots, if you will, to this state and this nation. To all of you, thank you for being here as I give you this welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Today we are proud to have Ernest Frederick Hollings and the late William Henry Drayton as the 72nd and 73rd individuals to be inducted into the South Carolina Hall of Fame. We are fortunate to have with us a host of local and state dignitaries, as well as family and friends of Senator Hollings and descendants of Mr. Drayton. We are especially pleased to have with us today our 1991 inductee, Ann Worsham Richardson, and our 1997 inductee, our former Governor, James B. Edwards. Would you kindly stand to be recognized? Ann? We are also pleased to have with us the students from Horry County Schools who met earlier with Senator Hollings in this room. The South Carolina Hall of Fame recognizes the Palmetto State's most distinctive sons and daughters who have made valuable contributions to American life, its culture, and its history. The individuals we honor today have distinguished themselves and dedicated themselves to public service, leaving their mark in our great state and nation. We are indeed proud to add their names to the list of South Carolina's finest. At this time, I invite you to enjoy the Coastal Carolina University Concert Choir's performance of Shenandoah. Thank you very much. And now please welcome Dr. Roger Stroop, who is the Director of the South Carolina Department of Archives and History and a member of the Board of Trustees for the South Carolina Hall of Fame. Roger will introduce our next speaker.
Craig Hadley is the Managing Director of the Living History Group, a history consulting firm based in Charleston, South Carolina. Originally from Columbia, Greg is an alumnus of the University of South Carolina. During his career, he has worked as an archaeologist and an historian in projects across the country. Over the past 15 years, he has designed museums, created interactive educational websites for institutions, and served as a consultant for the History Channel. He is the former Director of Education and Research for Drayton Hall, the birthplace of William Henry Drayton. It was while at Drayton Hall that Craig developed a keen interest in William Henry Drayton. Nominations to the South Carolina Hall of Fame must originate with a local historical organization. While at Drayton Hall, Craig initiated this nomination. We are glad he is able to be with us today to present the tribute to William Henry Drayton.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Roger. It's an honor to be here today to speak on behalf of a great South Carolinian and a great American. The Drayton family has a long and rich history here in South Carolina. Arriving in Charleston in 1679, they later established and built their American ancestral home in Charleston, which is now known as Magnolia Plantation and its gardens. The Drayton family has produced several generations of South Carolina statesmen and even a governor, but none as important to our nation's history as William Henry Drayton. William Henry Drayton was born in 1742 in Charleston. His birthplace, Drayton Hall, still stands to this day as one of the finest examples of Georgia Palladian homes in America and as a National Trust for Historic Preservation site. Born into privilege, his father John sent him and his younger Charles away to be educated in England at only the age of 10. And while he was being groomed for substance, he would not see his home or family again for more than a decade. When he returned to South Carolina, the young man bore little resemblance to the little low-country boy that left more than 10 years earlier. He was spoiled, a gambler, and had trouble relating to his father, who was now a stranger to him. But this is what I love about William Henry Drayton. He was human. He was flawed. He had troubles like anybody else. He was a young man full of promise, trying to find his way in the world, as many of us do, but not sure which way to go. As expected, he soon married a beautiful young woman whose name is perhaps one of my favorite in 18th century history, that is Dorothy Golightly. During the next few years, his father tried to make him a planner like himself, but William soon discovered he had an interest that lied elsewhere, and that was in politics. It was here that he began to explore the relationship between England and South Carolina. He began to write under the assumed name Freeman, which addressed the grievances of the colonists to England. However, he soon determined that South Carolina needed not to reconcile with England over differences, but make a full break and become a free and independent state. But the events at Lexington and Concord in 1775 would propel him to act. Instead of just talking about acting, William Henry Drayton began to act himself. When news of the open conflict with the British began, he led a secret committee that he was assigned to lead to do whatever necessary to protect and ensure the safety of the colony. He led a raid into the State House and confiscated more than 800 guns, 200 cutlasses, and almost 1,600 pounds of black powder. South Carolinians now had a foundation and enough weapons to start resisting the British. William Henry Drayton had found his place in the world. And as soon as he realized what that place was, his whole life came into focus, and he threw himself wholeheartedly into this endeavor. We take for granted these men during the American Revolution because we know the outcome in hindsight. Try to keep in mind that in 1775, the British Empire was the most powerful entity on the planet, and their army and navy the most powerful in the world. It'd be almost akin to Puerto Rico declaring war on the United States today. That's how doomed this venture seemed at the start. In fact, William Henry Drayton went into the revolution with a complete understanding that he would likely be killed or executed before it was over. But that did not matter. It was the cause that mattered. His three younger brothers, Charles, Glenn, and Thomas, also joined the Patriot cause, each joining a different branch of the army to fight the British. As for William, There are so many accomplishments and things that he did during the American Revolution. They're too numerous to mention here. So I'll try to just touch upon the highlights. He became president of the South Carolina Provincial Congress and oversaw the formation of our first independently adopted Constitution. Once he stepped down as president, he became one of the first men in South Carolina to serve in all three branches of government at the same time. He was elected to the General Assembly by his district, appointed to the Governor's Privy Council, and was selected as the first independent Chief Justice of the South Carolina State Supreme Court. It was in that position as Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court that he used his position in April of 1776 to speak out against England publicly and call for the colonies as a whole to make a complete break from England and form an independent democratic government. His fiery speech was so well received it was published in pamphlets and reprinted in newspapers from New York to London. It is said that the speech was read on the floor of the Continental Congress in Philadelphia by Arthur Middleton while they argued over the issue of independence. It is said that it actually swayed the opinion of some of those congressmen to all vote unanimously for the Declaration of Independence. Some historians actually believe that a copy of his speech was in the pocket of Thomas Jefferson as he wrote the Declaration of Independence, as there were many similarities between the two documents. In July of 1776, he was then assigned the task of designing one side of the South Carolina state seal. His design, which is still in our state seal, is dominated by a tall palmetto tree and another tree which has fallen and broken at its base. The standing palmetto tree represents the victorious defeat of the British during the Battle of Sullivan's Island in 1776, while the British cannonballs were absorbed by the palmetto trees on the embattlements. On the tree are two shields. One is dated March 26th, the day South Carolina adopted a new and separate government. The other, July 4th, the date of American independence. The fallen tree is that of an English oak, representing the defeated British fleet. In 1778, he was elected to the Continental Congress and traveled to York, Pennsylvania, where they were meeting because Philadelphia had fallen to the British. In his first task as a congressman, he personally witnessed the starving army at Valley Forge, the fact that they had no food, clothing, or shoes. He resolved to root out the corruption in the Army's commissary department, which was taking vital supplies from Washington's army. But instead of sitting comfortably in his warm offices in York, he personally traveled to Valley Forge, and there he stayed. And he visited with Washington, von Steuben, Lafayette. Washington soon saw this young representative for South Carolina as a friend because he had a passion and zeal for the patriot cause and a willingness to aid Washington and the Continental Army in their most desperate hour of need. Soon, Drayton uncovered the corruption and was able to get the needed supplies to Washington's army. And upon his return, he volunteered to serve in more committees in the Continental Congress than any other congressman save one. But perhaps his greatest lasting legacy has to do with how we celebrate the 4th of July. In June of 1779, the Continental Congress was trying to determine how to recognize the 3rd anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Henry Lawrence, another inductee of the South Carolina Hall of Fame and representative of South Carolina, proposed that we spend the 4th of July in a day of prayer and fasting. The 4th fell on a Sunday, and we weren't doing very well in the Revolution at the moment. Things looked grim. William Henry Drayton, though, did not see the grimness. He saw the hope. And he stood up and made a counter-proposal saying we should have a great celebration followed by a exhibit grand fireworks in the glorious anniversary of the American Revolution. Well, I'm sure Senator Hollings can attest that Congress hasn't changed too much in more than 2 centuries. When the vote came on the floor, prayer and fasting, I'll say aye. A party and fireworks, I'll say aye. It was a pretty quick vote. Henry Lawrence and a few of his cronies tended to walk out on that, but everybody else embraced it enthusiastically. And so, celebrating that Independence Day in 1779, in the shadow of grim victories and defeats, the whole Continental Congress went down to the City Tavern, had a great feast, and they went outside and enjoyed a great display of fireworks. It was the first federally official recognition of the 4th of July with the use of fireworks. So this Independence Day, when all of you are out eating your hot dogs and watching and enjoying the fireworks that night, say a private thank you to a fellow South Carolinian, William Henry Drayton. The future was incredibly bright for William Henry Drayton at this time. He had the potential and popularity after the war to become governor of South Carolina, perhaps serve on Lincoln's cabinet, and maybe even perhaps become president of the United States one day. Who knows? But in September of 1779, he fell ill. And by the 4th of September, he quickly died at the young age of only 37. His popularity was such that more than 60 years after his death, they were still reprinting his image for the public to sell. However, when the American Civil War broke out and ended, it replaced many of our early heroes with new ones, such as Jackson, Lee, Lincoln. Soon, William Henry Drayton's legacy was all but forgotten. He had become one of the forgotten heroes of South Carolina. But today, his legacy is being revived. His descendants have traveled here today from all over the nation to bear witness to his induction into the South Carolina Hall of Fame, an honor which will ensure that future generations will learn about this influential South Carolinian and what he did to help create a new nation. But there is more. And I would be remiss if I did not try to imagine what William Henry Drayton himself would want to say to all of you if he was here. As the sons and daughters of South Carolina, his legacy falls to you. He would tell you that it is your inheritance, your birthright. And he would ask you, what will you do with it? Will you simply wear it as a pin on your lapel, or will you let your voice be heard? South Carolinians such as William Henry Drayton risked their property and their very lives to have just one chance at freedom. We must follow their example every day and cherish the liberties we have and not take them for granted. In order to do his memory justice, you must be willing to stand up to prejudice, stand up to ignorance, and stand up to injustice, and most importantly, stand up and be counted as an American. And though these ideals may seem simple, they can be like walking through a wall of fire. It is easy to be a voice among many chanting to a popular drummer, but to stand up for what is really right, what is truly right, when your voice is the only one that can be heard, can be difficult, if not even dangerous. All of you students that are here today, this legacy falls to you as well. You are the next generation of this nation. And while it seems like a million years away, and you're feeling your youth and your immortality, you're about to graduate into a world of uncertainty, a world with dangers, a world with promise. And it's up to you to let your voices be heard, even now. It's not easy to be an American. William Henry Drayton understood that more than anyone else. He stood up to protect this nation time and time again and to give it a fighting chance. And because of that, people like him, the United States was able to be created and exists. The United States exists. Our Bill of Rights still exists. Our liberties and our republic still exist. But will it continue to do so? To be an American, a true American, is very tough. You have to be willing to protect the rights of citizens that promote the ideas that you yourself would spend a lifetime opposing. We're at the dawn of the 21st century looking into this new millennium with new dangers and new threats to our liberty, both outside our borders and within. Liberty and freedom comes at a price, and it is not just something that is trendy when our country is in crisis, but it requires vigilance in peacetime as much as it does in war. So what will you all do? Do you want to honor Drayton's legacy? Do you want to honor his sacrifice? What will you do?